Welcome to this deep dive into the world of Ritwik Ghatak. You're in for a treat. We've got a treasure trove of his writings on cinema, essays, lectures, even a peek into a film treatment he was working on.
It's really remarkable. It's like we get a direct line to his thoughts on everything film, his philosophies, critiques, and how his Bengali roots shaped his vision.
Definitely. One thing that really grabbed me was his belief that filmmaking is deeply personal, even though it's collaborative.
Oh, absolutely. That personal vision, that temperament, it's woven right into the film.
Like he says, cinema is not merely a medium of entertainment. It's a weapon, a tool for social change. Powerful stuff.
Absolutely. It really underlines how Ghatak saw cinema as a force, a way to engage with the world, challenge things.
So it's not just about making a beautiful film. Without that personal touch, it's not true art.
Right. He uses this phrase, stylistically divergent images,
Mm.
for films that lack that vision. It's like they're missing a soul.
Yeah, interesting. What do you make of that term?
He's saying those films feel disjointed, like a bunch of images thrown together. They lack that individual perspective that gives a film its heart.
Like a chef, right. A great chef doesn't just follow a recipe. They bring something unique.
Exactly. Their own flair, their own blend of spices. It's delicious, but it's also distinctly theirs.
Perfect analogy. You see it with some of the great directors. You just know their work from the visuals, the pacing, the music. It's unmistakable.
You got it. And this idea of personal vision links to Ghatak's critiques of Western cinema. He challenged the notion that Western civilization and its cinema was in decline.
And he took on some big names like Siegfried Kracauer, who really focused on surface reality. Godak felt that missed the deeper stuff, like collective memory and the unconscious.
Krakauer thought film naturally captured the surface details of life, but Ghatak argued true cinema goes deeper. It taps into those universal experiences.
So he's looking for something symbolic, something layered.
Yes. And he compares Krakauer to Satyajit's Aprahito. There's a scene with the constellation Orion in a puddle.
Okay, I remember that scene. But what's the significance?
For those familiar with Bengali culture, where Orion's prominent, it evokes shared history, cultural memory. It's not just a pretty image.
He's saying films have a secret language then, one that needs cultural understanding.
You could say that.
Yeah.
It makes you think, how much does cultural context affect our understanding of films? Have you ever felt like you were missing something because you weren't familiar with the culture?
Interesting. Makes you think. Now, Ghatak also championed melodrama and what he called the epic mentality, which seems a bit surprising.
Right, it seems like a contradiction. But for Ghatak, the problem wasn't melodrama itself, but how it was being used or misused.
So he thought it could be the basis for a national cinema.
That's right. One that truly reflects India's cultural identity and experiences.
So what's this epic mentality all about?
It's about grand narratives, larger-than-life themes and emotions. He felt Indian cinema, with its storytelling tradition, was perfect for this.
Like those big, sweeping stories that leave a lasting impression.
Exactly. He even compares it to Bertolt Brecht's epic theater. Both used heightened emotion, theatricality, and social commentary.
And music's key in both.
Definitely. Ghatak, like Brecht, saw music, especially folk melodies, as essential for epic storytelling. It heightens the emotional impact and connects with the audience's heritage.
Like another layer of meaning, another way to experience the story.
Precisely. And it all feeds into his vision for a truly authentic Indian cinema, moving away from stale adaptations and embracing unique storytelling traditions, all while drawing inspiration from real life.
And he was pretty critical of those adaptations. He thought they created a disconnect from contemporary life.
He was. He felt Bengali cinema relied too heavily on them, leading to a lack of originality.
Like they were missing out on those throbbing aspirations he talks about.
Exactly. He felt they should look to their own surroundings and experiences to create truthful cinema.
Makes you wonder, how does adapting a book change the creative process? Can a film ever truly capture a book's essence?
Good question. Think about your favorite adaptations. Are they faithful, or do they take liberties? And do those changes make them better or worse?
Such great points to consider. Okay, on to another interesting aspect. Ghatak on experimentation in cinema. He was all for originality, but he also criticized some experimental filmmakers, right?
He did. It wasn't a simple for or against. He saw two main types of experimentation.
Okay, let's break those down. What were they?
The first is experimentation with the medium itself, the tools and techniques of filmmaking. He split that into two: mechanical, technical, and artistic.
Examples.
Mechanical technical is like new technology, innovative sound effects, different aspect ratios. Think Norman McLaren, scratching film soundtracks for unique effects.
Pushing the boundaries of what's possible then.
Exactly. Artistic experimentation is about form, structure, symbolism, new ways to tell stories, convey emotions, explore themes.
But he wasn't a fan of experimentation just for the sake of it, right?
Right. He criticized filmmakers who used it as a gimmick, like Resnais and Rob Grillet. He felt their films lacked substance.
Substance over style, then.
Exactly. For Ghatak, true experimentation had a deeper purpose. He loved Fellini's La Dolce Vita. It used symbolism and a unique structure to depict societal decay. Bold, unconventional, but profound.
Interesting. He critiques some experimental filmmakers while praising others working in similar ways.
That's the key. It's not the technique itself, but the intention behind it. What's the filmmaker trying to achieve?
Okay, that makes sense. Now, what about the second type of experimentation?
That's experimenting with the medium for other purposes. Exploring the outside world, capturing different realities.
Using film for discovery and observation.
Precisely. Documentaries like The Vanishing Tribe, showcasing the Toda people, are a good example. Taking viewers to unfamiliar places and challenging their perceptions.
So for Ghatak, experimentation took many forms, but it always had to have a meaning.
Absolutely. Think about films you consider experimental. What makes them stand out? Do they innovate, explore new themes? And does it serve a purpose beyond just being different?
Great way to think about it. Now, what about Ghatak's personal experiences? We know he valued drawing inspiration from real life, so how did that shape his vision?
Great question. He shared a touching anecdote about filming Jukti Taco Argapo. He got sick and was taken in by a poor peasant couple.
Wow, that must have been humbling.
It was. Despite their poverty, they cared for him. And when he asked how they survived, the woman said, "Rice, wheat, bafra, buta. Everything is a dream to us."
Heartbreaking. You can really feel the weight of her words.
It deeply affected Ghatak, their generosity in the face of hardship. Experiences like that fueled his passion for portraying the realities of Indian life, giving a voice to the marginalized.
It shows that art is shaped by life, by experiences, observations, encounters. Makes you wonder, what would Ghatak make films about today?
That's a great question to ponder. But for now, let's think about how personal experiences can shape art. Consider filmmakers whose work resonates with you emotionally. Do you see connections between their lives, their concerns, and their film's themes? How does that enhance your understanding?
Those are excellent points to ponder. We'll delve deeper into Ghatak's ideas in part 2, exploring the subjective factor, the unconscious, and his unique techniques for crafting a powerful cinematic experience.
Welcome back. Before we get into Ghatak's specific techniques, there's something else that really struck me. It's his interest in the subjective factor in cinema. He was really drawn to psychology, mythology, that sort of thing.
Yes, we're going beyond just personal experiences now, into the subconscious, even the collective unconscious. Fascinating stuff.
Absolutely. He thought the unconscious was crucial for art. It's a source of those powerful images and archetypes that really grab us. He saw a real connection to religion and ritual.
Right. He said all that creates art in the human psyche also creates religion. A bold statement. What do you think he meant by that?
I think he's saying art and religion tap into the same primal energy, those universal human experiences that go beyond culture and time. The unconscious is that creative wellspring for both art and these spiritual experiences.
So artists are channeling something bigger when they create, something that connects with us on a gut level, like a universal language of symbols and emotions.
That's it, exactly. It makes you think, how do we as viewers tap into that subconscious level in films?
Yeah.
How do we learn to see those symbols and archetypes?
It's like he's saying, become aware of your unconscious reactions. Pay attention to how those images and symbols make you feel.
Right on. And speaking of feelings, this leads us to Ghatak's thoughts on specific techniques. They're the tools filmmakers use to access those deeper layers, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. They're speaking to our subconscious. So let's start with focus. How did Ghatak see it as a storytelling tool?
He believed focus guides our attention. It highlights certain things while obscuring others. It's not just about clarity, it's about controlling what we see and when.
It's like a magician, right? Misdirection. Drawing your eye while something else happens in the periphery.
Exactly. Think of two characters having a tense talk. The director might shift focus, maybe to a flicker of emotion in someone's eyes, or a tiny detail in the background that adds a whole new meaning.
It's those little things that pull you in, make you feel like you're right there.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And as viewers, being aware of this is powerful. Next time you watch a film, Watch how the focus changes,
Mhm.
what's emphasized, what's hidden. How does it change your understanding of what's going on?
Like a whole new way to watch movies. Okay, what about camera movement? Gatak wasn't a fan of just running about like mad, was he?
Not at all. He wanted deliberate movement, every move serving the story. It should enhance the narrative, create a flow, guide your eye in a meaningful way.
No shaky cam, unless it has a purpose.
Right. He even analyzed a scene from his own film, Megadakatara, where he uses long takes and moving characters to keep things visually interesting. It's fluid and natural.
So instead of quick cuts for pacing or excitement, he's using camera movement to tell the story visually.
You got it. Think about it as you watch films. Does the camera movement feel intentional or random? Does it add to the experience or distract from it?
We're like film detectives now. Okay, let's talk about sound. Gatak said it could convey the message on a parallel plane. That's really intriguing.
It is. He saw sound as so much more than just dialogue. Music, sound effects, even silence. They all create a truly immersive experience.
Working in harmony with the visual.
Exactly. He felt music builds atmosphere, heightens emotions, even foreshadows things. He loved leitmotifs, those recurring themes linked to characters or ideas.
It's like they tap into our subconscious. Ever get chills from a piece of film music and you can't quite explain why?
Absolutely. He even used the music from Fellini's La Dolce Vita in his film Subarnareca, specifically the piece Patricia. Remember his praise for La Dolce Vita?
Yeah, for depicting societal decay. Is he linking that to Bengali society in his film?
Good catch. By using the same music in a similar context, he's connecting those two films and their social critiques. It's like musical shorthand.
That's really clever. What about sound effects and silence? I feel like they're often overlooked.
They are. But Ghatak saw them as crucial. Sound effects ground the film in reality. Even simple sounds, a door creaking, birds chirping, they add detail that draws you in.
Those little touches really make a difference then.
Absolutely. And then there's silence. He thought it might be the most powerful sound of all. He even said, silence can evoke any emotion.
Really? That seems hard to believe. How did he explain that?
He said silence creates space for thought, to absorb and connect things. And he pointed out that it can also build tension, create anticipation.
It's like a moment to breathe, to prepare for what's next.
Exactly. He used the example of an explosion. To make it truly impactful, you need that moment of absolute silence beforehand.
It's the contrast that makes it hit so hard. Sound design really is an art in itself.
It is. It's a dance between sound and silence. Ghatak was a master of both. It makes you think, how does sound affect you in your favorite films? Think of specific scenes where music, effects, or silence really stood out. How did it make you feel?
Great point. It really does add another layer to the experience. Okay, on to documentaries. Gatak seemed to have a real affinity for them.
He did. He thought they were a powerful way to capture reality and present it artistically. He saw their potential to shed light on social issues, to showcase human experience.
And we talked about Robert Flaherty. That story about Sam Goldwyn expecting blizzards in a South Seas film is priceless.
It shows how expectations can cloud our judgment. It's something Ghatak always fought against, that narrow view of cinema. He wanted substance, not just spectacle.
He was even critical of documentaries that focus too much on the exotic or sensational. He said the real power is in capturing everyday life.
Right. Finding those universal truths, those shared experiences that connect us all. And it goes back to his belief in truthful cinema, that connection with your surroundings.
Observing with an open mind and heart.
Exactly. Not forcing a narrative, but letting reality shape the story. It requires empathy, that connection with the subjects.
Absolutely. And Ghatak was so good at capturing that connection. He had such a deep understanding of human nature.
He did. It makes you wonder, what documentaries have had that kind of impact on you? The ones that stick with you because they touched on something so human and universal.
That's a great question. What films have expanded your understanding of the world and left you feeling connected?
I think it speaks to the power of documentaries and of cinema as a whole. To move us, challenge us, connect us.
And it's a great way to think about Ghatak's legacy. He wasn't afraid of the truth, and he used film to challenge and inspire.
He was a visionary. His work still resonates today.
Huh.
And as we move into the last part of our deep dive, remember his belief that cinema can reflect the throbbing aspirations of the people.
Absolutely. And it leads us to a final question for our listeners. What issues do you think contemporary Indian filmmakers should tackle? What stories need to be told? How can they use cinema for social change?
It's a challenge for everyone. To use cinema to engage with the world, to tell stories that matter, It's a way to honor Ghatak's legacy.
Wow, what a journey this deep dive into Ritwik Ghatak's world has been. We've talked about so much. His belief in filmmaking as a personal statement, his critiques of Western and Bengali cinema, his love of melodrama, the epic form. We even dug into personal experiences and the subjective factor, not to mention those detailed insights on focus, camera movement, and sound.
It's really amazing how all these pieces, all these different ideas come together. It's a vision that's so personal, but also so connected to the world around him. You really see his passion for using film to explore those individual and societal realities.
Like he's giving us a whole new way to see film, right? To understand the art behind every choice.
Absolutely. And documentaries are a great example. Ghatak really saw them as a way to capture reality truthfully, but also beautifully. He loved Robert Flaherty's work.
Speaking of Flaherty, that story about Sam Goldwyn expecting blizzards in a South Seas film is just too funny.
It really shows how our expectations, maybe even a lack of cultural understanding, can make us miss the point. And Ghatak was always fighting against that, wasn't he? That narrow view of what cinema should be.
He definitely was. He wanted substance, not just spectacle. He even criticized documentaries that focus too much on the exotic or the shocking.
Right. He said the real power is in everyday life, those universal truths, the shared experiences that connect us all.
And it goes back to truthful cinema, that connection with your surroundings.
Exactly. Observing with open eyes and an open heart, not imposing a story, but letting reality guide you. It takes empathy, that ability to connect with the people you're filming.
Definitely. And Ghatak was a master of that, wasn't he? Capturing those human connections so beautifully.
He was. He understood people, had such compassion, and he noticed those little details, those moments of truth that resonate with us all.
It's like he's letting us experience the world through his characters' eyes, their joys, their sorrows, their dreams. Makes me think about documentaries that have had that kind of impact on me, the ones that stick with you because they're so human, so universal.
That's a great thing to think about. What films have stayed with you, challenged you, or changed how you see the world?
It's like we're expanding our understanding of what cinema can be.
Exactly. It speaks to the power of documentaries,
Yeah.
of cinema itself, to move us, challenge us, connect us.
And that's a great way to sum up Ghatak's legacy.
Ah.
A filmmaker who wasn't afraid of the truth, who challenged us and inspired us with his art.
He was a visionary.
Mm.
His work is still so relevant. And as we finish this deep dive, I want to leave you with his belief that cinema can show us the throbbing aspirations of the people.
That's such a powerful idea. And it leads us to a final question for our listeners. What issues do you think Indian filmmakers should be tackling today? What stories need to be told? How can cinema be used to create change?
That's the challenge for all of us, isn't it? To use film to engage with the world, to tell stories that matter. It's a way to honor Ghatak's vision.
It really is. Thank you for joining us on this journey into Ritwik Ghatak's cinematic world. We hope you've enjoyed exploring his vision and that you'll keep discovering his amazing films.